A voice rises above the noise, steady and strong, asking a question that echoes in every heart. What does it truly mean to stand together? For years, the kingdom has struggled with division, with uncertainty, with challenges that seem to break people apart more than bring them closer. In the middle of that struggle, a new call begins to grow. A call that does not belong to politicians or parties or media headlines, but to the people themselves. This is the call of unity. It is not soft, it is not timid, it does not whisper. It roars. The message is simple but powerful. The strength of a nation does not live in the walls of parliament or in the money flowing through banks. It lives in its people, in the way they stand when times are hardest, in the way they refuse to be broken even when storms rage over them. Every generation of this kingdom has faced its trials. Some fought wars, some fought hunger, some fought despair. But through it all, they endured. Now another test has arrived, and the question presses on every voice, every mind. Will we stand together, or will we fall apart? There is a reason people crave leaders who are not afraid to speak plainly, who do not dress truth in clever words, who do not twist messages for their own gain. They look for someone who speaks with honesty, with courage, and with the authority of lived experience. That is why, on this day, in the heart of London, a soldier-turned-leader steps forward to speak. His words carry weight not because of fame, not because of popularity, but because they come from a man who has lived through battle, hardship, and survival. A man who has seen how unity can mean the difference between life and death. The kingdom is restless. People are tired of promises that never turn into reality, tired of divisions that grow deeper every day. They want something different, something real. And when Ant Middleton's voice begins to rise, people listen. They do not listen because they are forced to, but because something in his tone speaks to their own silent thoughts. His voice says what many have been feeling. The time for division is over. The time for unity has come. His call is not wrapped in mystery. It is direct. It is clear. He says that strength is not found in standing apart, in fighting each other, in blaming neighbours. Strength is found when people hold the same rope and pull together. Strength is found when courage is shared, when hope is shared, when vision is shared. That is the kind of strength that can carry a kingdom forward, no matter how heavy the burden. The opening of his speech is not about politics. It is not about sides. It is about survival, about honour, about a future worth fighting for. His words cut through the noise of doubt like a blade. They remind the people that history is watching, that generations to come will ask one question: did we stand united, or did we allow division to consume us? This is the foundation of his message, the unshakable core. Unity is not a dream, it is a duty. And as the first words land, a silence falls, a silence that carries the weight of truth. For in that moment, people realise that what is being spoken is not just a speech, it is a challenge to rise above fear, above anger, above difference, and to build something greater than the sum of its parts. This is the call to unity. And it begins here. Before he speaks of unity, before he talks of strength, Ant Middleton carries with him a story that demands attention. It is not the story of wealth or privilege. It is the story of a man who has walked through the fire and lived to tell it. From the harsh deserts of Afghanistan to the most dangerous corners of the world, he has stood where others might have fallen. He has faced chaos, fear, and loss. Yet from each battle, he has returned with lessons that now shape his voice. People know him as a soldier, but he is more than that. He is a man forged in discipline, trained in the hardest environments, tested under pressure that most would never imagine. In the Special Forces, he learned that no man can survive alone, that no mission is won without trust, that unity is not optional. It is the key to survival. These lessons were not found in books or theories. They were written in sweat, blood, and endurance. When Ant Middleton speaks, it is not as a distant figure reading from notes. He speaks as someone who has led from the front, someone who has faced danger with courage, someone who has carried others when they could not carry themselves. That is why people lean in closer when he begins to talk. His presence demands it. His story commands it. He does not speak in riddles or in promises. He speaks with honesty that pierces through doubt. In London, as he takes the stage, people do not just see a former soldier. They see a man who has transformed his life into a mission of leadership, resilience, and truth. His journey from the battlefield to the public stage is not one of fame-seeking, but of service. He knows that the kingdom needs more than empty words. It needs courage. It needs resilience. It needs leaders who will remind people of their strength. Ant's introduction is not about ego. He does not stand there to shine a light on himself. He stands to shine a light on the people, to remind them that unity does not come from one man, but from the power of many. Still, his presence is vital. Because in times of doubt, in times of conflict, voices like his are needed to bring direction, to bring focus, to bring hope. He tells the people that his background is not about titles or medals, it is about lessons. Lessons of survival, of endurance, of teamwork. Lessons that are just as needed in homes, workplaces, and streets as they are in battlefields. He reminds them that the discipline of soldiers, the trust of comrades, and the resilience of leaders are qualities every citizen can carry in their own lives. As his introduction comes to an end, it is clear that this is not an ordinary speech. This is the beginning of a mission to unite, a mission to inspire, a mission to show that no matter the scars of the past, the kingdom can stand strong again. And standing there, with the weight of his past behind him and the hope of a nation before him, Ant Middleton begins to lead, not with orders, but with words that strike like iron on steel. Every kingdom faces its defining moments, and for this one, the present feels heavier than most. The streets speak with a quiet tension. In the marketplaces, people complain about rising costs, wages that cannot keep pace with survival, and dreams that feel more distant each year. In homes, families whisper their fears late at night, wondering if their children will inherit hope or hardship. On the airwaves, voices argue endlessly, splitting hairs over blame, pointing fingers at one another, while the real problems grow deeper. A kingdom once admired for resilience now feels like it is cracking under its own weight. The truth that Ant Middleton highlights is simple but undeniable. Division has weakened the nation. It is not just political division, though politics has certainly carved deep lines across communities. It is not only economic division, though inequality has grown sharper with each passing season. It is also cultural division, the sense that people no longer share the same table, the same values, or the same vision. A kingdom that should stand as one body feels, instead like separate limbs moving without direction. Each part works for itself, while the whole weakens. History is not shy about what happens to nations that forget their unity. The pages of time are filled with examples of kingdoms that rose in strength but fell in pieces, not because enemies overpowered them, but because they tore themselves apart from within. Ant reminds the people that strength is never destroyed by outside forces first, it is eroded from inside. When trust breaks, when communities stop listening to one another, when fear replaces cooperation, collapse follows. And yet, the challenge is not only a warning, it is also an opportunity. For in every moment of division, there is a chance to rebuild stronger bonds. Ant paints the picture clearly. The kingdom is like a rope fraying under pressure. Each strand pulls in its own way, and the rope weakens. But if those strands are twisted tightly again, bound together with purpose, the rope becomes unbreakable. That is the essence of his message. The problems are real, the dangers are real, but the solution is within reach if unity is chosen. He names the struggles that everyone knows too well. The economy shakes and families feel the blow. Jobs are uncertain, and young people wonder if their future has already been stolen. Politics has become a theatre where anger performs louder than reason, and trust in leaders fades. Cultural clashes add to the tension, making neighbours feel like strangers. Each of these challenges alone is heavy, but together they create a storm that threatens to drown hope. Still, Ant does not speak with despair. He speaks with urgency. He tells the people that complaining will not change the tide, and waiting for others to fix the problems is no longer an option. The kingdom must rise, not as scattered individuals, but as one voice, one body, one strength. He does not sugarcoat the truth. The road ahead will not be easy. But ease was never the measure of greatness. Struggle is, sacrifice is, unity is. The kingdom faces not just an external storm, but an internal choice. To continue divided is to accept weakness. To stand together is to rediscover strength. Ant's words cut sharply here, because they challenge every listener to stop blaming and start building. He asks them to look not only at the failures of leaders, but at the responsibility of the people themselves. For no leader, no system, no law can unite a nation unless its people decide that unity is worth the fight. In this moment, the challenges become clear. The nation is at a crossroads, its spirit stretched between despair and hope. Ant frames it as a defining test of character. Whether the kingdom will let itself sink further into division or whether it will seize the chance to rise stronger than before. It is a test not only for politicians or leaders, but for every citizen who calls this land home. This section of his message builds pressure, but it also builds anticipation. For Ant Middleton is not a man who points only to problems. He is a man who brings solutions forged from the hardest lessons of survival. And as the people hear him describe the weight of the nation's struggles, they also feel a spark growing. The spark of belief that unity is not just a word for history books, not just a fading dream, but the answer that can turn the tide of today. The heart of Aunt Middleton's speech does not lie in pointing out what is broken, but in showing how to build something unbreakable. When he begins to speak of unity, his tone carries the force of someone who has lived the truth he shares. For him, unity is not an abstract idea or a political slogan. It is a principle carved into his life by experience. On the battlefield, in the desert, in the wild, he learned that survival depends on trust. No soldier succeeds alone. No team endures if its members fight against one another. Victory belongs to those who bind themselves together, who understand that strength is multiplied when it is shared. And now he extends that same lesson to the kingdom, urging people to see themselves not as scattered individuals, but as one force bound by purpose. He tells the people that unity does not mean sameness. It does not demand that every voice speak the same, or every mind think the same. Unity is not the silence of differences, but the harmony of them. A choir does not sing with one note repeated. It sings with many voices blending into one powerful sound. In the same way, a kingdom grows stronger, not by erasing differences, but by aligning them toward one goal. The divisions of class, culture, and opinion can remain, but above them all must stand a higher commitment, to protect, to uplift, and to strengthen the nation as one. Ant strips away excuses with his words. He warns that blaming leaders or waiting for perfect conditions will achieve nothing. Unity begins with the individual. It begins when one person chooses to stand with their neighbour, when one worker chooses to support another, when one family chooses to look beyond themselves. Unity is not built in grand speeches alone, but in daily acts of responsibility. Each citizen holds the power to shape the spirit of the kingdom, and every small act of cooperation is a brick laid in the foundation of strength. He repeats the truth that division weakens, anger weakens, fear weakens. But unity is the engine that can pull a broken kingdom forward. He reminds them of history's lesson. The strongest victories have always been born from collective courage. Armies fought not for themselves, but for each other. Communities rebuilt after war not because of one man's strength, but because thousands of hands worked side by side. The same principle stands today. If unity could carry the kingdom through fire before, it can carry it again now. Ant makes it clear that unity is not only about defending the nation from threats, it is also about building a future worth handing to the next generation. He speaks of children, of families yet unborn, of dreams still waiting to be lived. Every decision made today echoes into tomorrow. If division is left unchecked, the echo will be of weakness and despair. But if unity is chosen, the echo will be of resilience, of strength, of pride. The legacy of the kingdom will not be one of decline, but of renewal. In his message, unity is not passive. It is not sitting quietly and hoping for peace. It is active, demanding courage and sacrifice. Unity requires listening when it is easier to argue. It requires standing together when fear says to stand apart. It requires giving when it is easier to take. Ant does not pretend it will be easy. He does not flatter his listeners with promises of effortless change. Instead, he tells them the truth. Unity is hard, but it is worth every effort, because it is the only path strong enough to carry the kingdom forward. His voice grows sharper as he declares that unity is a choice, not a gift. No law can force it, no leader can demand it, no outside power can deliver it. Unity must rise from within the people themselves. Each citizen must decide whether they will remain in isolation or whether they will step into the bond that ties them to their fellow man. That choice, repeated millions of times, is what will shape the fate of the kingdom. At the core of his message, Ant drives one point again and again. Strength is found together, not apart. He tells them that in the days ahead, challenges will not vanish, storms will still come, but a united kingdom will not crumble under them. Instead, it will stand, weathering every test with the confidence that comes from knowing no one stands alone. That is the true meaning of unity, not the absence of difficulty, but the power to overcome it together. By the time this part of his speech settles, the people understand that unity is not just an inspiring word spoken on a stage. It is a call to action, a challenge to live differently, a mission that each person must choose for themselves. And in that realization lies the turning point. For the kingdom, long burdened by division, begins to see its greatest weapon against despair, the unshakable strength of standing as one.